the baby table is prepared, things are sanitized. Yeah, these are the things. And as I came back, it was around 1:50. That's when Sophie, the other midwife, she said that Raj, if we have an emergency situation, we need to make a call. And since we already had the protocols and everything explained, and we had the printouts in front of our door, we made the call.
This is the Birth Agni podcast, the fire that brings us alive, that burns myths and opens a channel of authentic natural birth stories. This show debunks the many myths of the medicalized births, showcases the plethora of choices a pregnant couple can make to embark on their empowered birth journey. I'm Divya Kapoor, a certified birth and lactation counselor and an aspiring traditional birth attendant. Let's get the flames blazing high. This is chapter 2 of Raj and Vikki's story, where an emergency brought them to the hospital. How they moved from home to the hospital and worked with the system, and their experience in the hospital is shared in detail today. So yesterday we spoke about the birth, we spoke about how Henry came and how he was absolutely curious. We just said that word, so it comes to me. He was curious, he was alert, he was looking around, he was enjoying his time in a way outside. And then what happened? We were to now go to the second chapter of the story.
Okay, so my placenta didn't come out right away, and the midwife, she said, okay, it's been 15-20 minutes, I'm gonna give it a light tug and see if it comes. And then she did that, and it didn't come easily, honestly, and that was a little bit weird for her, I think. And then it's where she looked at the placenta and she like had it all on a plate or something in a bowl, and just looked at it, and then she noticed that there's quite a big piece missing, and that kind of alarmed her in a way. And at the same time, I had apparently quite a bit of blood loss that was more than normal. And this blood loss, I guess I can only kind of describe it. I didn't really notice anything, honestly, because I just kind of lay there, and the baby was on top of me, and I was happy.
Yeah.
And then I had she just said, okay, there's a lot of blood loss, and apparently maybe it's because the body wants to get rid of whatever piece was still stuck inside, so it's trying to flush it out. And since that didn't come off, my midwife was alert, and then at this point also 2 other midwives, also her team was already here.
Yeah, so they always work in teams. So there's always someone available as a backup, just in case someone falls sick or anything. There's always a team of 2 and another one as a backup. So there were 3. So the other 2 were also free that day, and the moment they heard about this, and they also were there by this time.
Yeah, by this time they were all there. And so Dita decided, okay, I think this is a lot of blood loss and this is not exactly normal, so we are going to have to transfer you to the hospital after all. And that was a big, let's say, like, sad thing for me, because I thought, I wish this could have been just done now, because it was so beautiful. Everything was perfect, just like we wanted, or even different. Like, of course, it was different than we wanted, but it was even better. I don't know. And then she's like, oh, we have to go to the hospital. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
In a way, you can say that we kind of prepared ourselves with all these affirmations and visualization about the birth. And the birth happened as per how Vikki wished it to happen. Henry came at his own time and will, and everything went perfect. But what happened after that was something we weren't really prepared, and something that we didn't even think of.
Not much, no.
Not much.
I mean, we were prepared that everything can happen after the birth, that that's a possibility, that you have to be rushed off to the hospital. Although the midwife always said it is a possibility, and the chances are very low that if you're going to be transferred, that it's going to be with like red light, like with the sirens and everything. So if you're going to be transferred, most likely you'll be doing it on your own pace, in your own car, just on your, like, without this kind of rushy feeling and silence. But it turned out that we are one of those very few cases.
Okay, so
So-
I'll just add some pieces of information because I always remember the time, date, and
Right.
seconds. So it was around, so 1:20 is when Henry was born. 20 minutes later, we had the placenta coming out.
Yeah.
The second delivery, and we had that issue. And meanwhile, I had already prepared this smoothie shake, and then the other two Hibamas were there. I also had to help them with the paperwork. Now that we had 3 midwives,
Yeah.
we had to do the first paperwork for Henry. So he had to be weighed, and the height and all the measurements, and of course for the official birth certificate, they needed to do certain protocols. So I was kind of preparing for that. Okay, so the baby table is prepared, things are sanitized. Yeah, these are the things. And as I came back, it was around 1:50. That's when Sophie, the other midwife, she said that, Raj, if we have an emergency situation, we need to make a call. And since we already had the protocols and everything explained, and we had the printouts in front of our door, we made the call. Usually it takes a couple of minutes to reach this what do you call it, emergency service. But this time there was a long waiting time, so it took around 4-5 minutes just to reach to an executive. And then we had to, of course, you have to provide a lot of details. What is happening? What's the situation? What's the address? How far is your main door from the main door and the door? Are there steps? Which floor is it? So that they have this information, so it's easier for them to evacuate or take the person out to the van. So we provided the information required, and by this time there was, I could see that there was a slight switch. So before this, Dita was in charge. She was taking care of a lot of things, and now Dita was basically comforting the Vikki, and she was sitting next to Vikki and just trying to make her calm that okay, it's fine, because of course she was losing a lot of blood. And as we discussed during the course, that during the labor the body prepares extra blood, so you have extra liquid in your body.
Yeah.
So that's what we remembered, and that's why Vikki had no worry, because usually in case of blood loss, the first reaction is, oh my god, there's blood loss. But we knew this concept that okay, there is, it's more liquid, it's more watery. So
Yeah. Also, I couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
Like I didn't see how much was there. I didn't see anything. Like it was just Dita who was at the other end who could tell how much was it actually. And I think it might have actually been a blessing in disguise that this pool thing didn't happen, because also you wouldn't be able to tell in a pool maybe how much blood is actually in the pool, because it would be watered down and all.
Yeah, that's the one thing with the water birth, wherein sometimes they don't let you birth in the water because they want to be aware of things. How we function in a more traditional midwifery way is, we are absolutely okay if you birth in the water, but we like it also goes from person to person. Like a different person would practice differently. Every person has a different practice. So I would have the mom come out, and that's what we discuss. You come out of the pool after some time. You're not going to be there long enough if you seem to bleed, because we cannot calculate in the water how much it is. Also, just to add to that, sometimes it's not the amount of blood that you're losing. If you're continuously losing a lot of blood, yes, that's a red alarm. Like, that's important, because you can quickly start draining your system and you can quickly go into a state of shock. That's where we don't want you to be. So if it's a continuous bleeding that happens, definitely an alarm has to be raised. At other times, if you lose some blood and it's still you're not losing it continuously, you are fine, everything is fine, you just lost some blood which was more than usual during the birth of the placenta, that can be normal. So there's again that range of normal, and there's again that thinking through what's happening, and you did have a piece of placenta inside, and yes, your uterus will try to clamp down, or it will try to shrink and do more effort in order to get rid of it, and by the time it doesn't, it will continue to bleed. So it was a wise decision in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I started to feel cold, I think, when they arrived here. Like, it didn't feel it immediately. Like, I was still fine, and then I got kind of cold, and then they asked me. I mean, okay, so when they came, it was kind of weird because apparently there were 3 cars outside, three
ambulances.
which was like, okay. And apparently there's a protocol that there always has to be 2 of them. And
Yeah, one as a backup. So-
but this time there were 3.
So now they were having this kind of discussion outside the door. So I could, by this time, I think I was back here, and I had Henry on me. So I'm sitting on the couch. I'm giving him skin to skin and covering him from top. Vikki is in the other corner with Dita, and yeah, so we can hear this mumbling happening at the door. So they were here. They were. They didn't take much time. They were fast here, but I think this discussion was something that we all were like amused. What's happening? So apparently, because there has to be one who takes the person to the hospital and second as a backup in case. And because there were 3, so they had to decide who gets to stay.
Who gets to take the patient?
So I don't know if they did rock paper scissors or how they decided, but that took a while for them to just enter inside and look around and then see what's happening. And
Yeah.
so they entered, and of course at that point I think they were the most relaxed people in the room, the most calm aura that someone can ever have. And
the person in charge, he sat down by the piano, like opposite me, and he just sat down and he looked at me and he's like, okay, how are you doing? And then he asked me a lot of questions, and Dita also. And then at some point, I think it was maybe the 9th or 10th question or so, the other midwife, Sophie, came in and she said, can you ask these questions on the drive, please? This is of importance, and she is losing a lot of blood. This is a matter of life and death. Please do not underestimate the situation. And he was like, huh. And then he turned around back to me and asked me another 2 more questions. I think probably just out of spite. But it made me feel very uncomfortable then. Like, that was weird because, like, okay, my midwife is really, like, tense. I could feel that she was really kind of telling him to get going. And then he said, okay, now can you stand up? And I said, okay, maybe I'll try, okay. Then we just walked to downstairs to where the what's it called? The stretcher?
Yeah, so there was another thing with the stretcher. So this guy asked Vikki if you can stand, if it's okay for you to stand.
Probably he wasn't convinced that, I mean, and it shouldn't be a matter of him being convinced at all. But from what I hear from you, he was just trying to convince himself that this is real.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe
he probably never had this kind of situation, which seemed also true because he felt very curious. Like, he's like, okay, so no, I don't remember the questions he asked, but yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot around the fact that, is it home birth? Is it even possible? Like, he had that kind of curiosity.
He could have come back for tea later.
Yeah. Exactly.
With the amount of calmness and patience I had in that moment, like I had to create for myself. I don't think we would have had the chance to have a tea later. Anyway, so then again he starts walking back, and the other person is now discussing how to bring the stretcher, and our door is not like you just walk through and straight. So it's like you have to go and then turn and then go down the stairs. So they're making these calculations. Like, okay, we should go this way, we should go that way. At this point, I had
enough.
Fun. It's not even fun, but I'm like having this internal dialogue.
When you
Yeah,
go and punch one of them. I'm
Henry is on
sorry.
me, on my
Yeah.
chest, and I had a side of me which wanted to take charge and tell them that okay, can we get going? Yeah, it's about my wife and it's. But the second half was no. Right now you're with Henry. Whatever you do right now is what Henry will absorb. This is going to be his first impression coming into this world. So you better decide what you want to present to your son. And that was just one of those instances when I realized calmness is so important. It's a matter of choice, but I think at that point I had nothing else to do. I could not do anything else. So just taking normal breath. I'm still having conversations with Henry that okay, something funny is happening right now. Maybe we'll once we can have communication, we'll talk about it in a funny manner. But and suddenly I see Sophie asking Vikki that can you put your arms around my shoulder? Let's just walk. And within seconds, Vikki stood up, both the midwives giving her support, or Sophie mainly. And Vikki was already outside by the stairs, where they were still calculating how to bring the stretcher
Sorry,
inside.
that's kind of insane to me. Had this been in India, people would have just opened your doors, would have not even thought of whether it needs to be opened with love and care. They would have opened the door, got in, got the stretcher, got going, and everybody just gets going. There are advantages and disadvantages to everything, but this was stretched beyond belief.
Yeah, I honestly also never expected this to happen like that. I had also a much different view of ambulance and how they are supposed to be doing things. Definitely. Okay, so then I was on the stretcher. They gave me blankets because at this time I was freezing cold. I was so cold. Then they had to give me extra blanket and all. And then they drove me out. Neighbor was looking. Of course. And yeah. So we drove off. Midwife was in the next ambulance. I was in an ambulance by myself with that main guy, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, during the drive, he asked me a lot of questions, which I could and could not answer with some of them. But then I said, look, you should have asked these questions to the midwife, but you didn't let her drive with you, so why?
So the midwife, Dita, had to come with the second ambulance.
Yeah.
I don't even know if the third ambulance was still there or drove off. So I stayed back with Henry because we were still supposed to do the whole paperwork and weigh him. And so the other two midwives, Sophie and Anika, they stayed. And they were doing all the weighing and things. And Henry was still very, very calm and he was letting everyone do. And by this time, I already had conversations with him that, okay, there's the situation, Mama is going and Dita is there, so don't worry. We'll follow her soon. Let Papa pack bags because it was part of the checklist, an emergency hospital list, which
to have
was
a bag packed
already for this moment. But because, like I earlier said, that we weren't prepared because we never really imagined. We didn't want to manifest ourselves in any situation surrounding around the hospital.
Yeah. Right. I think I just postponed it to the never ending and then to never happen again. So I was like, I can do this later. I don't need to do this right now. So I just didn't want to think about it, so not to imagine myself there. I think it was, maybe not a good idea.
Yeah, but
I was there.
Yeah, so while they were doing the process with Henry, I packed everything. Good thing is that I remembered all the items that we had to pack. So, and everything was pre-arranged. So it's just that it wasn't in a bag, but Vikki had already put all the stuff where and what to have. So the bag was prepared. Sophie decided that, okay, she's going to drive us to the hospital. So me and Henry, we are sitting at the back of the car. He is sitting in this baby support, or like here we call it maxi cozy, but basically a baby seater, which you can put a seat belt around, and it's for safety. It's also a mandate thing, whether the baby is 1 day old or 4 years, 5 months, I don't know. So they have to be inside this. you can't carry them. So Henry's sitting, we are driving, and he's just curiously looking outside the window, like, oh, okay, this is what it feels like. And in the car, I'm talking to him, telling him that your papa had his first car ride when he was 16 years old. A first car, not exactly a car ride, but first car ride of our own car, something like that. And you are doing it within the couple of hours of your birth. And that's insane. And Henry is responding to all my conversations. Like, he's smiling, he's giving all sorts of expressions. He also has his eyebrows tugged in, like he's also becoming skeptical about all the situation.
Yeah.
And I was just having a fun chat with him that, yeah, even I feel like that was unnecessary. All those questions asked, they could have skipped. And Henry was giving these expressions that, yeah, okay, I agree. So we reached the hospital. Dita was already there. So Dita told me that, yeah, Vikki's already been inside in OT for almost an hour. And we had already gotten a room allotted. So I was there with Henry again, sat down, skin to skin, covered him. And he's being such a darling at this point. Like, at this point, I felt like the way he was hugging me was more like he consoling me that, Papa, everything's gonna be fine. Like, don't worry. And that, I felt like that could have happened in so many different ways. The whole idea of being calm in this situation was so much required. And
Absolutely, yeah.
Vikki will tell you what happened inside, but she was apparently there for an hour, and everyone was slightly concerned that, okay, this is too long. Yeah, it's taking too long, and it's just a small piece. And so yeah, we were there, and Vikki was there. After an hour or so, 4:00, she came out, and the doctor came. He explained me the whole situation, and sometimes it's funny how your senses start functioning. Like, at this point, my whole priority, I had my fatherly instinct of being a protector. I was nodding to whatever he was saying, and nothing was going inside my brain. Like, I just heard keywords which said that, okay, she's fine. It's gonna take a while. We'll keep her under observation for next 24 hours, but it's not a big deal. She has lost a lot of blood, so we'll refill. So these were just the key words that I found, and I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
I did not hear the whole story. Yeah, then Vikki might be able to tell.
I don't remember because I was under narcosis, of course.
Anesthesia.
Yeah. And no, I just remember that when I got there, that they had like a whole meeting with everyone involved, like also the ambulance people and then the staff around there, the doctor and all. But other than that, they sent me off to that operation room, and from then on, I was under anesthetics. I woke up all fine.
And then Henry continued to latch.
Yeah, but so we stayed in the hospital for
3 nights. Yeah.
3 nights. It could have been 2 nights. We could have been gone earlier, but after the first initial checkup on Henry from the kids doctor, kids doctor,
Yeah.
they found that he had a bit of a high bilirubin.
Bilirubin question was a little higher than normal.
And so they wanted to check on the next day also, after he's had more mother's milk and after he had, just latched a couple more often, to see if it's going down. And so we decided to stay another night, otherwise he would have had to drive the next day to a hospital. So it would have made no difference. So we stayed another night. And there were like physiotherapists. They came one the second day and one came on a third day. To do some exercises with me. Second day already was standing and moving to the toilet and all. That was all fine. Yeah, and I think the funniest thing was more when they were taking out that cloth that they put inside me.
So that we haven't talked about.
Yeah, so they had this operation and they scraped out the piece of placenta, and then for the bleeding to stop, they had put what it's called a tamponade, which is something that the doctors said to me. This is something we used to use in the war.
It's used to cover the
bleeding.
wound. To stop bleeding.
To stop bleeding. So, but what they pulled out of me it felt like this magician pulling on a piece of cloth, and it just keeps coming, right, with these colors. It felt like it was never ending. I think it was 20 meters long. I have no idea, but it was terrible. It was so horrible.
Okay.
I think that felt worse than the birth.
Not really. The
No,
worst was me holding back my happy nature and my humor, that when the doctors were doing this, I almost had it here. Like I'm having Henry on my lap, I'm trying to make him sleep, and I was just gonna ask that, is the color gonna change? Because it looked funny. I look at Vikki, and Vikki has this expression that, oh my god, I don't know this. This is not me. And I look at her, and we are both cracking out. We are giggling inside. But on top, we have to maintain a decorum because we are in intensive care unit. But it was hilarious. Once the doctors were gone, we were like, what was that? That's what they use for war. And yeah, it's sad to know about such things in such a situation, but at this point we were just taking it as an experience.
Absolutely.
Like, because what you remember is, or how you remember something creates your experience. It drives your perception. And we were sure about this thing that, okay, even though it's an hospital experience, let's just enjoy it. Because Vikki had already gotten the green flag from the physio. Doctor said that it depends on the physio. If they say that you are fine, you can go. And Vikki was already able to stand and walk, but only because of the checkup that we needed for Henry, which apparently Dita could have also done at home. That's the procedure. But for this bilirubin, then again we would have to go somewhere else. So we thought, okay, going back home, then again driving somewhere else, taking an appointment, waiting, doesn't make sense. Let's just stay here. And third day was actually quite fun.
Yeah.
No one came to us. Like, Vikki was checked by a doctor twice, maybe one time in the morning, one time in the evening. Dita came to say hello, other midwives came to say hello. My mother-in-law was already there by the time. So it was just like us having this family room, and we are just chatting, and food is getting served. So we had breakfast, lunch came on time, dinner came on time, and we are just talking about, oh my god, we have this for dinner, we have this for lunch. So it feels like an expensive holiday or a getaway.
Oh, well.
But your costume doesn't suit you right now.
True that.
So yeah, that was the hospital part. Later we came back, I think a couple of days later, maybe a week later. We used this opportunity to just go through the experience, just to see if there's anything that's inside. So just let it all out. I started sharing my experience, Vikki started sharing mine, and the reason we are able to share it with such humor and humility is because it was a humble experience. Either way, this was a situation which was rare. According to our midwife, it was, or probably it was because of somebody told us at the hospital that there was a lot of calcium deposit around the placenta.
That
And
happens all the time. I mean, there will
that
be.
happens all.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's not something midwives are scared of, but the doctors are. So, yeah.
We thought about this, that this could have happened in the hospital as well. This could have happened at a birth house.
Yeah.
At a hospital, had it happened,
I probably wouldn't have lost so much blood, but they still would have had to scrape it out. So, yeah.
or they would have probably rushed you in emergency.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
So, and that was something we were definitely not wanting to have. We wanted a natural birth, home birth, which we achieved. So we were kind of happy about how Henry came. And that was the whole purpose. What happened later was probably an experience that later gave us something that we have now included in our family value. And our family value, the first point that we have is preparedness. So being prepared of situation, not just thinking about the negative side, that okay, what if this happens? What would be the consequence? Instead, what if this happens? What do I need to know to be able to go through that phase? Or what do I need to have?
Right.
So it's just about knowing and being prepared how to sail through that situation. And I think that reflection session that we did later was an emotional ride, because we had only thought of this whole birthing experience as coming from an external source, coming through podcasts, and hearing about it from colleagues, and it's always been a mix of positives and negative experience. But in the end, it's about what the parents go through. And for us, it was, like Vikki said earlier, it was a blessing, and the second half was probably a blessing in disguise. Like just experiencing the hospital part, being sure that okay, this is also there, and that's what I believe, that if we chose to go ahead with this natural birth, there should always be something as a backup plan, and medical institutions or hospitals in this case are always, or they should be the plan to go to, not the other way around. But this is just our perception, not the other way around, as in not to go to the hospital and then.
I thought that's what you said just now.
No, I meant
Hospital is the go to. I'm sorry.
No, I got it.
Okay.
I think he meant that deciding to birth at home, but having emergency care in plan and well planned, and not the other way around, like birthing in a hospital because something may go wrong. Was it?
I think, yeah.
Am I
Yes.
right?
Yeah. So because it might happen, do not take that choice.
Yeah.
Instead, be confident at what the mother feels like, what the parents or going to be parents, they feel comfortable and confident. Because the moment you start filling yourself with reasons that what can go wrong,
You'll find tons of
and
reasons.
then you have Murphy's law.
Yeah.
What can go wrong will eventually go wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you wanted to add to what Raj was saying, because I could see you were, you had a slightly different way to describe the hospital.
Well, no, it was good and bad. I mean, also with the sisters that were working there, of course. I mean, you have some people who just work there and they just rude and they just do their thing and then just get out and have no empathy whatsoever. And then you feel like, oh my god, I don't want to be here. But then there's other sisters that are super nice and they try everything to make you feel better. And of course, it's because it was so long we stayed there, we experienced many different people that worked there. And it was quite a, let's say, 50-50 with these kind of people. Yeah, I think also one thing that I wanted to mention is one of these sisters was just really weird, asking me questions that I thought made no sense. Like, I had fed him several times, of course. I had him latched. And then I said, okay, actually it's hurting me a lot and I don't know why. He's eating, but he's doing a lot of these extra sounds, these sucking and air coming in and all. But he does get full somehow eventually, but it hurts me a lot. Do you have anything that can help me? And then first they gave me this cream. And then for the first time they asked me, are you sure you're producing enough milk?
Oh my god.
And I was like,
that's such a wrong question.
I think I'm sure that I'm producing enough milk. He's getting fed, I think. But that's not the question you should ask me. I think, like, maybe, isn't there a different question you can ask?
Yeah.
Anyway, so a day later, I also still had a lot more pain and this cream didn't really work all that well. And then I asked again, and then they gave me a paper which said to get these silver cups for my nipples so that the nipples will heal with the milk it produces somehow itself. And I was like, okay, you don't have them here. That's too bad, because they could have really helped maybe. And then again they asked me, are you sure you're not producing there's too little milk. Should we feed him with anything? I was like, no, that's not the issue. I mean, why are you asking me this? And I felt so weirded out. And I was like, at the same time, I was so happy that I was prepared from your course, also from the lactation advising, that it's not the amount of milk that's wrong. There's probably something else. And it usually takes some time for the latching to be proper, to be right, to work for both of us, because we're both learning how it is. And I felt that these questions were so out of place and so non-empathetic in a way. Like, I guess maybe they don't know. Like, if I had not known about this lactation thing, I would have probably said, yeah, probably, must be it. Yeah, I felt like if I had not had this confidence that that's probably not going to be the case, then I might have just said, yeah, maybe. And then they would have fed him with the bottle. And I was like, okay, I don't want that. No, I want to feed my baby with my breast. And it hurt for, I don't know, 6 weeks, more than that, 2 months.
But interestingly, next morning Dita paid a visit around 7:30.
Yeah.
And that's something that she had in her bag.
She had already gotten it.
Yeah, I have it here.
I have one of those. So she had them and she said, okay, so I keep using them because anyway, it's silver and you can just sterilize them and then you keep using them. And then also, and then at this point I was like really aghast in a way that why wouldn't the hospital have something like this? They're clearly sterilizable. That's something that a mother could really use, and it really helped. After even putting them on for a day, they felt so much better. And I was like, why doesn't the hospital have something like this? This is reusable. It costs them nothing. But probably just because it costs them nothing, they're also not gaining any money from that. And it made me feel so, they're so stupid. It really was. Yes. Anyway, we did find out what it probably was after 2 months of it still happening. And this was not the beginning latch hurt, which lasted a little longer than that. That's the beginning latch hurt, and then it just kind of vanishes. That I also had a long time, but this was actually during the whole latch it hurt. So it was, I found out because my osteopath, is this something that you have?
Physiotherapist?
Yeah,
I mean,
she's
it's
a
not
physiotherapist.
physio, but it's osteopathy.
Chiropractician.
Chiropractitioner
/ physiotherapy person who I had a good connection with because I was in her care for a long time before that also, and she knew about the Henry and that he's about to be born and all. And she said she would come over and take a look at him and see if there's anything that she can say and do. And then she gave him a little massage and had like all sorts of turns and things. And then she looked in his mouth and she looked at how he was latching. And then she noticed that he has probably this band which is connecting the tongue to the bottom of the mouth.
Yeah,
that is very short on his end, on his tongue. And that made him be less focused on the drinking, so he would have more air and he would like pinch down on the nipple much more than necessary, maybe. Then if he would have a longer band. And she said, okay, there's some things you can do. You can take your thumb or take your finger and kind of massage the tongue from down, or you can have a surgery. And I was like, oh my God, no, I'm not going to cut anything on my baby. No. And she said, anyway, it would have been a very, very small incision and he would have been fine. This is something that's done, but don't worry about it. You can do this with the finger and anyway. And from that day onwards, I'm telling you, from that day she was here, it was gone. It was only that beginning latch that only hurt, but not this whole experience. And it was so relieving. Like,
wow.
I hadn't thought, like, I was reading so much, why is lactation, it's supposed to be so good, and I've read everything, and it's not supposed to hurt, and you're not supposed to have pain more than this first little couple sips, and it was still hurting, and I was like, okay, am I not breathing well enough? Am I not calm enough? And then Raju said, well, just take a breath, calm down. try to meditate or try to do something, focus on your baby, and I did that, but it didn't help. So
It was a physical pain that
it
she
was a
was
physical thing, and
feeling.
from the day that she said it, it was somehow.
I think Henry just wanted to or needed to hear that. See, it's fine. It's one of those moments where you feel sick or you have fever, and suddenly your mom or your dad takes you to the hospital or takes you to a doctor.
Yeah, the
And the
doctor said-
moment you're sitting outside the doctor's, I'm feeling better actually. It's just that point of awareness. Yeah. I don't know if it was specific for Vikki or Henry, but yeah, that's how magical it was. Just the idea of knowing that okay, this could be the reason, it vanished.
Yeah. No, that happens with lactation. Sometimes just isolating what's happening and listening to the mom and acknowledging what she's going through, because sometimes nobody acknowledges what she's going through. Everybody's like, oh, the latch is fine, everything is okay. I don't know why it hurts. Just live with it. And that's
they said, it's the beginning thing, and everyone said, it hurts at the beginning, and I'm like, but that shouldn't be hurting at the end of the feed. It should be hurting at the beginning, and then it should vanish somehow. And that's what I've been reading. That's what I've been told. That's how I learned about it. And then she said, it's probably normal. I was like, no, it can't be. This has been 2 months and it's still hurting a lot.
Yeah.
But I did not want to give up feeding him, and they kept using these silver things, so it was helping anyway.
Yeah. The silver cups are really good. And that's a tongue tie you're referring to. So some babies do have
tongue tie. Okay, I did not know how to do this in English. So the funny thing is, this physician that she came to look at him, she said actually one of the reasons for the babies to have this tongue tie is if the mother is increasing her intake of K2, vitamin K, and other B12, whatever,
or something. Yeah.
So because the midwives also told me, okay, you have to take these substitutes now. These are extra vitamins for you and for the baby, So it was this loop, right? You have to take them because it'll make your baby feel healthier. And of course, he was super healthy. He's that healthy that his thing got really strong. His tongue got so strong that he could not latch properly anymore.
Yeah.
Dang it!
Yeah. Oh, I think anything can lead to anything. And today, in today's day and age, we have a lot of things mapped up to a lot of other things. So B12 you need for making iron. So if you want to have iron in your body, you shouldn't be deficient. But then, if you're not deficient, do I need to take a supplement? It's a lot of.
But it made sense for me also because I was always low on iron. I've always wanted to give blood in these blood drives, and every time I came there, I was low on iron, so I had to take supplements for a while, and then I could go again, and then they would take my blood. But
then probably it's not really that led to it. Today there's a lot of information and there's a lot of mapping that's happening, and sometimes babies have a tongue tie, and maybe people did not know about tongue ties back in the days. And even I don't know why a tongue tie happened, but it does.
It does, and no one saw it until 2 months later. She was taking a look at him properly, and I was so thankful that was
that's good.
The day it all went better with that.
And like Raj said, it does that confidence comes back now. The moment that comes back as to you've really figured it out, that also really helps how you feel, what you're feeling in your body. So absolutely, So before we wind up, is there anything you'd like to say to the parents who are planning who are in the stage of planning their births and postpartum? India, there are very few birth centers. There are not independent midwives, licensed, or if I say through the government, the government is not putting any efforts in having midwifery established out of the hospital. Everything that's there, it's in the hospitals. The unrecognized workforce of dais and traditional midwives are definitely that's still there because a lot of us are still in the villages. And that's a boon. And that's also a knowledge base that we shouldn't lose. But for people who really just look up to the hospital at the moment and they don't have a lot of options, what would you say to them?
So it depends on what is their background and what is their family's thoughts also. But I think for a woman who has about this amazing experience of a birth about to happen, if you want to be in a place where your birth of your new baby is a risk and something to be feared and something that will make you anxious and everyone around you anxious, and if that's what you want, maybe go to the hospital. But it's also got everything else taken care of you with they're doing the whole package, whatever, gold package, platinum package that you can get in. I mean, just that thing, it's a whole different experience if you come with a different mindset and say, okay, there's about to be a life in this new world. I want to have this as a happy experience. I don't need the fear. I don't need the anxiousness around me. I can do this in my own space, in my own four walls, with the people I love only. It has a lot to do with this feeling of being calm, being there, being present. And yeah, I would not have changed anything. I would not.
That's sweet. Yeah, that's wonderful. Henry is here. Henry, do you want to say anything to the babies? What do you want to say? All the babies are listening. He smiled. He said,
Probably he wants to say that don't listen to anyone outside.
Yes.
You know it already. You have all the skills, all the information. You know how to work together with your mama's body, and it's a natural instinct. No one can teach you this. No one can make you better.
But you should probably listen to a course because it's very important, because that'll make mommy really confident that everything is going to be fine. And that the things that are happening in the body, she knows what these things are. And that's actually really good because it feels so empowering. You have so much information and you know, okay, this is that. And I felt no alarming sense for a lot of things that I may have freaked out otherwise.
Again, I really like the way how Vikki used the word fear, because that's exactly one of the reasons why we end up doing things that we want to do, but if something doesn't go according to the guideline or according to the standard procedure, someone else has to do it because now you're not in control. So I think that the suggestion that I would add on top of what Vikki said was absolutely 100% bang on. But it's about parents getting to know, first of all, it should be their decision of how they want the birth to happen. And everyone, like Vikki mentioned about the family history and the support system, also the place. Are you living close to a hospital? Are you living 40 minutes away from the closest hospital? Now, considering these small factors, what would be better? Would you, in case you're an hour away from the closest hospital, would you be willing to put that thought out of your mind, saying that, okay, I still want to have a house birth, but in a what if situation, what's your backup? What's your fallback plan? And I think in that case, midwives really come in handy because they are not just coming with information, but they're coming with a lot of expertise in basically helping you navigate through those decisions. So just going through those points and understanding the details, the information, and then making a collective conscious decision of, yeah, this feels right. This feels right. This sets right. And once you've made up your mind, then it's only about focusing on that goal. And this is something that all the future parents or people who are expecting babies can take away from our experience, that our goal was to have 100% home birth, natural birth. We achieved it. What came in was probably just nature's way of telling us that, yeah, you can never be 100% prepared.
Yeah.
Because if you could do that, then what's the point of having a life? Life
Having
with
faith.
unpredictability.
Yeah, that's where faith comes in, no? When things take you off guard, that's where you realize that there's that power beyond us. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah.
And now we are just 5 months later into this parenting experience. Henry had a swimming lesson today, so he's tired. And
Baby swimming.
one more thing that we would
So
want
energetic.
to add is that Henry's growth has been really good in terms of his curiosity. He is observant. He remembers people around. Even my mom was here for a month, and whenever he listens to her voice on phone, he starts giving these expressions that, oh, I heard this voice. And
He always looks like he's in thought when he hears it.
yeah, he's in thought. Yeah, sometimes we talk about it, that okay, is he a philosopher? Is he going to be a painter? Is he going to be an artist? Yeah, but probably the best blessing that we could have.
No, touch wood. No, thank you so much for doing this with us. And how do I say, it was a joy to hear your story, to hear the experience in depth, reminiscing how you feel about those things. One of the things I would really commend you on is taking the time to go back to the experience and talking to each other, giving each other that space as to how you felt it and how I felt it, and then how do we now think about it and how do we now carry it forward in our lives. I think a lot of us don't do that in our lives, especially as couples, and not just birth, in and around life. Sometimes we don't do that, and that becomes a hindrance in the growth of the relationship. And this is by far one of the, I think the entire journey kind of reflects on how you are as people: thoughtful, reflective, aware, present, and that's just wonderful. That's, I think, as if we imbibe all of that, we'll be able to find the answers we need to, and we'll be able to find where do we want to birth, like where do the listeners want to birth. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And also thank you for all the support that we had throughout our parenting journey.
It has been invaluable.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you so much. There is a field beyond fear, where the body is empowered to take on labor and birth. To land there, it is crucial to take birth education. To enroll into our unique labor and birth preparation course, reach out to us at www.birthagni.com or scroll through all available prenatal and postnatal preparation classes. Thank you for listening, all in the spirit of birth, womanhood, and freedom. Remember, you got the power. This podcast is about physiological birth and does not offer or claim to provide medical knowledge or diagnosis.
Starting a podcast with poor recording tools in the market? It was painful until I found Zencastr. Its high quality audio and video recording, along with the option of a backup, makes it super sturdy and a savior at times. With an easy to use dashboard and super convenient tools for advertising campaigns such as reels and videos, Zencastr is my comfort choice. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code BIRTHAGNI, BIRTHAGNI, and you will get 30% off of your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. You may also explore their free hobbyist plan to begin with.